Today's guest is G-Force South to my G-Force North, Giselle Chapman. Give it up for Giselle, everybody. That's right, yeah. And Giselle and I are cohorts in a mastermind. And the very first time I met Giselle, she had seen me first. She didn't stalk me. Haven't quite made that. But she saw me at the event. I knew about her. We had exchanged a few emails being in this mastermind cohort. And the first words out of Giselle's mouth when we met was, "Ginger, I'm so sorry about your dog." It was right after my beloved 15-year-old had died. And I tell you what, it was literally in a room of a couple thousand people. And that was on her mind. And I was so impressed because I thought, she's truly connected to how I'm feeling. And I already knew I loved this woman, but man, it was like a done deal when I got to meet Giselle. So Giselle Chapman has remarkable, great energy. She will fill up your cup. She's going to share some of her magic today. And what we're going to talk about specifically here on the Connecting Juice is 3 ways that Giselle focuses on human connection in her area of expertise. And so Giselle, why don't you first share what is your area of expertise in magic?
Yeah, so a guru of mine said the order that we should go is why, mindset, and tactics, right? So I'm going to start with that, right? So my why is that I really am driven to develop leaders and life learners in an environment of love, respect, and Genshai. And if you haven't heard the word Genshai or Genshai, it's an ancient Hindi word, and it means never treat a person in a manner to make them feel small. Now, how do I do what I do? What I do is I stir emotions so that people will either think, feel, or act differently. And what is the ultimate result of what the work is that I do? I get to work with CEOs and their leadership teams to really coach on peak performance cultures and creating peak performance people. And so it's really getting them to be their highest and best and continuing to evolve to the next level of themselves.
Oh, so good. Would you please spell Genshai for the crowd?
Yeah, that is, should I put it in the chat?
That would be fantastic.
All right,
absolutely. We've got a feng shui expert in the room too, Susan McKenzie. So I know I saw her start to lean in. She's like, I got to write that one down.
There it is.
Good one. There it is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So within that fabulous, the first thing I want you to unpack before we go 1, 2, 3, Giselle, is peak performance.
Yeah.
People can interpret that all kinds of ways. What the heck does that mean in everyday life?
Yeah, no, it's an excellent question. And the way that peak performance really is, it's being able to consistently, and I think this is the key word, consistently perform at a high level and still having the energy and vibrancy to live the life of your dreams, right? Because it's one thing to be able to perform. And I tell you, I work with a lot of C-suites, and there's a lot of people that are hitting their marks in terms of professional marks. But then they're ruining their relationships, their energy is sucked, they're not feeling good about themselves. So it's, again, that energy and vibrancy to live the life of your dreams is a key part of that.
Oh, so true. I'm seeing some different head movement in here, and feel free to like make gestures and burn up the chat, my friends. Connect here, please. I'm one of those teachers that if you see somebody interesting, please go ahead and reach out to them. Have the chat while we're here. We are in the same room. We are connected together. We're all grateful to be here. So there's a lot of magic I already know of people within y'all who I want to connect. So go ahead and do that robustly. All right, G-Force South, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Give us the first way that you factor. Look at her. She's like, okay,
yeah.
It's
like the softball moves, right?
I know. Okay, I didn't realize it was this much. Anyway, whatever. A lot of power in the room. What's the first thing you want to teach, first aspect you want to teach on how you utilize human connection to help people lean into their peak performance to live that fabulous life of energy and vibrancy?
So, one of the things that I really love to do is do things so that it's memorable. And so I have WIN as the acronym, W-I-N, of which we're going to do to win connection. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what each of them stands for, and then we'll go through them one at a time. So the W in WIN stands for words create your world. Words create your world. And maybe what I'll do is I'll pop that in the chat so that you guys will have at least an index for that. So the first is words create your world.
All right.
The second, the I in WIN stands for intention, attention, no tension. Intention, attention, no tension. Then the N in WIN stands for now, how can I serve with excellence? Now, how can I serve with excellence? And so you want me to kick off with number one, right? So the W, let's start with the W. Oops, let me put this last one in here for you real quick. Okay. So words create your world, so the key thing is to choose the words that are going to keep you on purpose. As I shared, my words are love, respect, and Genshai. The question I have for all of you are, what are your words? What are the words that keep you on purpose? So, one of the things the story that I want to share with you is how breakdowns led to breakthroughs for me in my life. And the reason that we're all here together is because of a breakdown that I had when I was in high school. I was actually in a high school. I went to a Catholic high school, and I was one of 2 Black people in the high school. And so, as you can imagine, that was just definitely coming into a new culture and being someone who stood out, but not necessarily standing out because it's something positive, but just standing out because it's an obvious thing that you're different. And in my first week at school, I was up at my lockers, and there was a circle of guys that were standing around. And outside of that circle came the word nigger. And I have to tell you, it absolutely knocked the wind out of me. I was like, oh my gosh, here I'm in this new environment. How am I going to get around that? But I never realized that breakdown at that moment was going to lead to a breakthrough of why I'm really so passionate about people being treated with love, respect, and Genshai.
And how many people were in that high school, Giselle, just for a frame of reference?
About 1,000 people in the high school.
Okay. All right. All right. Great. Keep going, please. It's a great story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, so I, at that point, was like, okay, you're not going to tell someone about tattling on someone. That's not going to get you ingratiated into the culture. And what I realized once I was able to kind of catch my breath and kind of get my feet back under me is that I needed to be in the circle to influence, not outside of the circle. But I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to do that. And what I realized is that the way to enter into any circle, at least the most effective way that I found, is to add value. So I've always been in a space where I could give value first. And one of the things that I learned pretty early on in life, that one of my extraordinary gifts was about creating relationships. For some reason, I was always able to build trust with people pretty quickly. And I thought, boy, if I was in that circle instead of outside of that circle, then the relationship would be different. So that breakdown led to the breakthrough that gets us all together. Because once I realized, what happens is that we just don't know each other. Once we know each other, it's going to, then we'll decide whether we like each other or not. You know what I mean? They still might not like me, but at least
they know something.
That's right. They've made an informed decision, Right. So that is the story around it. Now, my why is a Genshai mindset, right? So if we summarize Genshai, never treat a person in a manner to make them feel small, including yourself. It's really about kindness. And so for me, the why was around rippling kindness about how we treat people, no matter whether we know them or not. Just everyone should be treated with kindness. And then, so the tactics, what is it that you can actually do to implement this if you wanted to use this tool as you're connecting with people? The first thing is, really asking, what is a gift of a breakdown that I've had? What is something that really challenged me? And the lessons that I learned from it, what were those gifts that were in there? For me in this situation, what I realized is that I needed to be interested instead of interesting. And so as I learned what they were passionate about, started to connect with people. So I feel like your biggest influence tools are your ears and your questions. And so for me, that was the tool of which really helped in that. And so I'll pause it here. What questions does anybody, Ginger, yes.
Tell people what happened though. You're at your locker, you hear the word dropped. Everybody wants to know, what did you actually do, Giselle?
Oh, at that moment, I went within. There's I think 2 things happen when people get assaulted in any way. There's silence or violence. For me, it was silence. I went within it. I was like a turtle. I didn't feel safe, and so I just didn't know what to do. And so once I got home, I processed it with my parents, I processed it with my friends, but I wasn't feeling good. I mean, it took a while. And I'll tell you, it also took a lot of courage for me to go back, because it was like, oh boy, what is this environment going to be like, But I grew up in a small school. I mean, my grammar school, I went to a small Catholic school. There were only 13 of us in there, but there were still people who were like family. We'd grown up together, and connecting with those people, but not sharing it with them. Because what I didn't want was people who were taking up for me and creating more tension instead of people really getting to know me. So that's why I kind of went into my turtle. I'm not saying it was the best way to process, but at 14, I did with the best I could with the skills and awareness I had at the time.
Right. And then what ended up, tell us a little bit more of that story going forward. What happened next?
Yeah, so in terms of that story itself, nothing happened in terms of me telling the principal or doing anything like that. But I did what kids normally do. I started meeting people. What I realized, I don't need to be friends with everyone in the school. I just need to connect and resonate with the people who we resonate with. So it was really more of that taking a pause and getting, the initial assault. It's almost like any injury that happens, right? It takes time for it to heal. Yeah. And so, I think the initial thing, and I think just like when there's a physical injury, there's like a huge perfusion of blood, like, let's heal you, because I felt hot, I felt uncomfortable, and, that same thing. And then, it's like, okay, just like with any injury, you just want to declutter, right? You don't want to have inflammation in here, let it declutter. And so I just kind of felt like I needed to kind of give myself some space for the healing. But what really helped me to heal, to realize that, that was a few people. It might have been one person, but just was in a safe group that did that. Doesn't speak to the environment that I'm in. And so I just decided to learn more about the people, because there were so many amazing people. And, sometimes standing out just because you're different was a great thing. People were interested because they didn't even know a lot of Black people. You know what I mean? So it was an interesting thing for them, but they were just interested, not judging. Very different conversation. And so I think those conversations actually gave me more confidence to kind of come back out of my shell and just kind of expand a little bit more. But I think expansion and contraction are equally important.
Absolutely, because one feeds the other. It's a continuum. It's like an accordion, expansion, contraction. Yeah. Outstanding. Does anybody have any questions for Giselle based on that? Based on that fabulous insight she just gave us? Feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask her. You can do that at any time. Those of you who have been here before, thanks for coming back. You can jump in at any time. Keep the chat burning up with questions, comments, your suggestions, how you come out of your shell, how you connect with people. Because clearly, you probably still have your shell, Giselle. We all do.
Oh, yeah.
And we simply use it differently at different stages of our lives.
Ginger, and it's interesting, like, around being that interested person that helps you to come out of your shell, is people's favorite topic, right, is themselves, right? So it was so helpful to me when I asked them, what are you excited about? What are you passionate about? Those type of things really helped for me to connect with them and give them a chance to know me and us to know each other. And then we can decide, do we like each other or not, and not be a judge type of thing. Yeah. And not to say, again, one person could have been in the whole school who had that thinking, right? But I had that experience. And at first it was like, oh my God, what is this environment, right? But then I realized, it's not the environment. That was one experience.
Yes. Giselle, have you read the book by Sally Kohn, The Opposite of Hate?
I have not.
If somebody would put that in the chat for me, I'd appreciate that. The Opposite of Hate. It's a phenomenal book. Sally Kohn, Kohn. I'm reading it right now. If anybody else has read it, go ahead and comment. It's about how we look at connecting with people, and it's based on how hate can take root, also how to extract it. So you talk about expansion, contraction, and I think we all probably felt this cringe when you told the story, when you dropped the N-word, and like, well, my N-word is networking. It's a different N-word. It's equally powerful. We can all feel that viscerally because there was hate underneath that. At the same time, was it conscious? Was it unconscious and those kinds of things. So that's an interesting point of connection. And like you said, you and I both extol the be interested.
I'm not interested.
Talking.
I'm just listening that
Larry? Oh, okay. Never mind. All right. So anybody have any questions at any time, go ahead and jump in. Giselle, that WIN is a fantastic acronym. It's words create your world, intention, attention, and no tension. Will you talk a little bit more about the I, please?
Yeah, so let's talk about the I. So intention, attention, no tension. I think, again, I like to set things through a story. 13 years ago, I really, didn't know exactly that I wanted to do peak performance coaching, right? I knew that I wanted to take people to the next level of where they were, and I knew that I wanted to work with the C-suite. And, so it didn't have the brand that it has now. However, I knew what I wanted to do. And, so when I think about this, what happened was, as I was coaching, working with CEOs and their leadership team, they said, some of them said, Giselle, why would we just keep our training limited to the 6 or 8 of us here in the room? If we're going to really ripple this out, we need to expand who you touch in the culture. And so as a result of that, they started asking if I would do like some keynote presentations where I could hit big groups of people at once within the organization. And I said, sure. And so we started to do that. And the unintended consequence was here, I was focused on the C-level executives because that's who I'd been working with. That's who I'd been speaking with at conferences. And when I realized the greater effect is when you shift the culture. So my intention, right, in that situation was I wanted to work with C-suite executives, right? And the attention was I was doing everything that I knew in my power to move that forward. I was speaking, I was having word of mouth connections, I was doing different things where I was socializing where the CEO socialized. But then intention, attention, right? So those are the ones that you're fully in control of. The no tension is when you say, I'm going to trust that if I have my clarity and my actions into place, that I'm going to attract this or something better. So the no tension is saying this or something better. Because you know what? I love working with CEOs. However, working with CEOs and their culture is something better than working with CEOs that I didn't even realize at the time of doing it. So it was one of those things that kind of uncover. But I think that there's lots of times that we get so in our head about, hey, this is exactly what I want. It needs to look like this. And, and then you start doing things towards it and then something else shows up and then you're like, oh, I don't know about that. But I love the Garth Brooks song that says unanswered prayers, right? Because if anybody, that song, and basically what Garth talks about in the song is that, he had this girlfriend that he fell in love with in high school and he thought, this is the girl of my dreams. And, for whatever reason, they were no longer connected. He married someone else and then they came into another reunion where they were together. And now he was talking to this person who was the woman of his dreams. And he realized that, sometimes he said, I thank God for unanswered prayers because he thought that his prayer was unanswered. But the truth of the matter was the person that he was with was something better.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, so good, G-Force. You're amazing. You're amazing. All right. So we've got a little bit more time. Love to keep this short and sweet and to the point. So if you have any questions or challenges, comments that add value to our time together here on the Connecting Juice, for Giselle, for myself, Maya, I know you had a question. I think you've unmuted yourself. So why don't you go next?
Awesome. Thanks, Ginger. In your email, it said one of the points was, how do you learn to think and act differently? And I was hoping that you might be able to give some advice on acting differently, because I'm trying to balance being really bold in big ways, like, for example, moving to a new country for a job. That's not a hard thing for me. I've done it a couple of times now. But then I struggle with being a little bit bold every day, multiple times a day. Like, this is sort of a challenging thing, and I would rather be distracted with other tasks that aren't actually as important. So I Yeah.
How to be bold.
How do I fix that? What is your advice?
It's a fabulous question, Maya. And I think, first of all, I would say, you skipped over very quickly. I've moved to multiple countries several times. That's not so bold. This is because, this community is such high performers already. So moving to another country once is a big deal.
It's bold. It's bold, but it's the small bold that's hard. It's the frequent.
It's familiar bold for you, Maya. It's familiar, so it's not. It doesn't feel as scary as different because you've done it already. That's called muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep going, G.
No, but to Ginger's point about this muscle, I think the wonderful thing is to build on your successes. So what allowed me to be successful to move from the first country, then to the second country, then it became, hey, this is just a routine. So Maya, you already have a success formula. If you were to narrow down to 3 words that say, what makes me successful moving from country to country, to someone like me who said, hey, Maya, I'm considering moving to another country. What made you successful in that? I think actually identifying what your success factors are, actually taking time to celebrate yourself and say, wow, that was a pretty big deal, and if I've accomplished that, if I want to turn on something, my why has to be big enough, as we've learned, right? The why is really your necessity and drives you to do that. And then when your why is big enough, then it's easier for you to move to action. Why is really the key thing to get you to move to action. But I think when you realize, like, boy, I got momentum from the progress of the past added to my why, nothing's going to stop me.
Oh, so good.
Does that help?
Yeah. Does that help, Maya? Excellent. All right, great. I would add to Giselle's, because she's got so much. And GiselleChapman.com is where you can find out more about her. When if you're part of a C-suite team or a team in general who really wants great leadership, clearly she's got the juice, folks. And so she appreciates, word of mouth is still something you work for and on. And making sure that we all share that together and share each other forward is really magical. In fact, in the chat right now, if you have your own business or you want to put your contact information, you're interested in connecting, go ahead and either put your first and last name if you want, if that's the safest place. If you've got a business that you're happy to share. I know, Susan, you got a great business with your interior design. Like, feel free to do that. Maddie, be sure you put L Song in there. Go ahead and use that. Community building, people. Giselle is absolutely right. Fear, you've got this. All of you got this because you've done different things. One thing I've learned from one of my coaches that I now practice is create a list and write do on one side and don't on the other. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not going to do. So Maya, for you, because we know each other somewhat, like, what you're going to do is you're going to be bold. Like, that's an affirmation. That's something you tell yourself before you walk out the door, before you pick up the phone, before you click on Zoom, whatever it is. Like, I've got this. I can be bold, because being bold is a strength of self. Nobody can take that away from you. And you're the one who gets to build that muscle too. Under the don't do's, I'm not going to be the wallflower. I'm not going to be the one to acquiesce under pressure. I am going to do to exercise my strength and show that off. There's no such thing as well, you've got this, Maya. I just know you've got this. I know that there's a couple other people in this room that know you've got this too. So you have to have that unshakable belief in yourself. Do not worry about what other people think about you. Do not worry about that. That's their issue. It is not yours. You got to have that large and in charge. And anytime you need that, call your backup. Who's your backup? Who's the person who will unquestioningly support you because they know you, they respect you, they love you, they're going to be honest with you. So yeah, you got this. I'm curious to know what country you're looking at next too. So indeed. Who else has a question or a comment? Anybody else? Feel free. Now is a great time. And if we don't, we'll keep going with a little bit. G-Force, I want to know a little bit more about, like, what are some other, you've got the WIN acronym and you've got the MSP. Ooh, some of you came in a little after we did the MSP. Giselle, explain what MSP is for you and how it really helps you get through the day.
Yeah, so MSP stands for My Smile Production, and it's my gratitude practice. And it's just, what are you grateful for? But it's been an amazing connector for me to work with senior leaders. And I'll tell you the thing about this is normally a text or an email from a senior leader might be 1 or 2 sentences long. They're very short and to the point. But with the introduction of the MSP, and I utilize it in any first communication of the day that I have with anyone. So if I'm texting a CEO, hey Ginger, really great to hear from you. My MSP is that, I had an amazing connection with the group of coaches today and really learned and grew together. I'm so delighted to be part of the connectivity juice, and it is awesome. What's your MSP? 9 times out of 10, that's the first thing they come back with. And I got to tell you, the MSPs tell you so much about who they are as people. They share, oh, my kid is doing this. And so you really get to know who they are, but you also know where they are right now. And so they'll share also if they've had a struggle, they'll share what was the breakthrough in the breakdown if they've had a struggle, so you know where they are. So it really is what gives you that moment in time of where they are to check in with them, whether it's electronically or in person.
Absolutely. Everybody put in your MSP in the chat right now. Let us know what's your smile production today in this moment. Let's see it. Go ahead and burn up the chat, put something in it, anything. And Giselle, you're so right. And I know we're not aiming for right, we're aiming for productive and positive and progressive. And that's so helpful, because when we focus on the positive first, just like, as you know, I teach the POW, the positive, objective, and willing. And when we put our mindset in that POW frame, oh, right, okay, reset. There's still so much we can be grateful for. That book I cited earlier, The Opposite of Hate, she tells a great mini story about getting together with somebody who's Muslim and who was struggling in her community because people just didn't understand her, like you. You were literally standing outside that circle of boys at high school, and figuratively. Well, there's always a way in, because we always have more common ground. So focus on the common ground, focus on what connects you, just like Giselle is teaching today with that win. The words change. I'm going to say this again. It's so good. Words create your world. Oh, I'm a total word nerd. Pay attention to that. Intention, attention, and no tension. How can I serve with excellence? I love this. And I'm going to tell y'all too, Giselle we've known each other, golly, for about a year, not a long time. You can go deep with people if you find that strong connection. I'm going to encourage you. Do not worry about getting your heart broken, because more often than not, if you pick the right person, your heart will be fulfilled way more than you could possibly imagine. I can tell you too, and I want to leave on this note too, Giselle, because it's on the top of a lot of minds. When we think about winning, and we think about so many things that are divisive right now, and one is the Black Lives Matter and just the cognizance around this, and you've been really gracious in helping me understand and be better, because we share the same race, we don't share the same skin color. I don't care, but give us one thing to think about to help us win as we move forward as better citizens of the world, if you would.
Yeah, I think the thing that really connects people in terms of when you feel like you're apart is a couple of things. One is that you think the best of each other, and I think that is really a key thing, because anytime that there's a divide, right, you feel like, the opinions are opposite or there's something different. But just, I think, thinking the best of each other, then also being interested, like we talked about, getting into that group, really being interested and connected with them. And I think, as we move forward, that's what it's going to be. How, I think there's a big difference between saying, how do we write things to make everything equal? It's not going to be equal, but if people are treated fairly and people are treated with respect, I think that would be such a positive shift across the board. Boy, if we had Gen Shy, right, that would do it. Gen Shy. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. We're about at the end of the show. I'd like to keep it short and sweet so you can get in, get out, and get on with your day. Thank you so much for being Connecting Juice. We're going to stay for a little while, so anybody who has any additional questions, you're welcome to hang out for a little bit while. One thing we've been missing with the electronic communication is the ability to linger and to mingle. And so we want to be able to afford that. We've done that every time after the juice, and it's been really effective and productive for everybody. So next month, Lila Smith is going to keep building on the Connecting Juice. Lila Smith has a business called Say Things Better. And Lila is a breath of fresh air. She's from Texas. She is remarkable in her own right. And that'll be on the 24th of September. I would really appreciate it if you share the juice with one person in the next week. Giselle's episode will be up shortly. Larry will produce it and put it on my YouTube channel as well. And if you would invite one person to say, hey, really getting a lot of value out of this. And if you're not, would you please tell me? I would rather you tell me than somebody else so I can course correct. If there's somebody you would like, if you want to recommend, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, I am open to recommendations. Giselle, what kind of parting words do you have for us to wrap up this episode of Juice today?
You know, so as we think about what we're doing for ourselves, I think the last question would be something that each person could ask themselves. You know, how can I serve with excellence? I think, you know, when we look at that, it gives you an opportunity to say, where am I right in this current moment, but where do I want to be? And I think it's just such a key thing to go from a place of introspection to a place of intention. And, you know, if you haven't come up with what your 3 words are, take some time to really say, how do I want to show up in the world in a way that I serve with excellence and can be proud?
Oof. I'm so proud of you. I can't take any dang credit. I'm so proud of you and so glad you made time today. So glad you all made time. Really grateful. You're my MSP today, peeps. So if you got to
say one thing, I just want to thank you for including me in your community here, because this is an amazing thing. I've learned a tremendous amount from you. You have an ability to connect and not control the relationship, which I think is amazing. And I can imagine that all the people in the community see that, and that's why they're so attracted, not just to your energy, but your wisdom.
Oh, thank you, Giselle. That means a lot. Indeed. Yeah. Virtual hug, sister. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Absolutely. Rob, speak up, my friend.
I just wanted to say to Giselle, I've enjoyed everything that you've shared with us, and I'm inspired and want to congratulate you for your ability at a young age, as a young high school person, to take that moment and pivot it into ultimately you being here today and everything that you've evolved into as a person, and that you're sharing that is helping to make other people better. And that's, I mean, at a young age to process it the way you did and handle it in such a mature way, and the results of who you are today, and that you're sharing who you are today with others is inspiring. So thank you for sharing.
Well, Rob, first of all, I receive your compliment with immense gratitude. And I have to say, interesting, when you came on, you were just so heartfelt and gracious for the love and connection and support that your wife gave you. And I think, you know, if we as individuals kind of notice the extraordinary gifts that we see in the world and can mirror that back to people, how much that would ripple out. So thank you for sharing that with me, and also sharing just your appreciation for your wife and your MSP.
Excellent. Right on, Rob. So glad you're here. Indeed. Anybody else got some good input or some thoughts today? All right. Well, I think that wraps another juice. Y'all got great smiles on your faces. Go forth, use this, share this, teach to others. Hope told us as we were getting on, she's like, I'm telling other people, please do. That's what we want to do. When we share, we're better together. Our kindergarten teachers were right. Get together with each other as it fits for you. Go forth, keep connecting, and know that you matter. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.